Tulsi Gabbard just went and absolutely exposed Barack Obama's dirty secret. Now, folks, some quick and important context for this. Trump, as you may have heard, has opened a grand jury investigation, or rather, his administration has, into Obama over the Russiagate hoax, or perhaps more appropriately expressed, the Obama administration. Unsurprisingly, the left is freaking out about this. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. It's an abuse of power. It's unnecessary, etc., etc. It's so terrible. President Trump, for his part, denies any involvement with it whatsoever. He says it's not him, it's just the Justice Department. They're the only ones doing anything. And it's kind of funny in a way, because that's exactly what Joe Biden said about Merrick Garland when he was investigating Donald Trump and trying to get him basically thrown in prison for the rest of his life. So, is Trump being serious? Maybe. I also think he might just be doing a little bit of a wink and a nod to people about, the kind of switcheroo going on there. And you know what? I'm all here for it. I think that's hilarious and good for Trump. Why wouldn't you do that? So with all that being said, we're going to get right into it. But first, if you haven't already, guys, please check out our new channel. It's at Real RTM News. All right. Once again, that's at Real RTM News. Go give it a look. As always, I'm your host, Darian, and this is Resist the Mainstream.
A spokesperson through the propaganda media.
Now, Director, you said there was irrefutable evidence that Obama was the mastermind of this intelligence manipulation and the perpetuation of the Russia hoax. What is that irrefutable evidence for our viewers tonight?
Yeah, Laura, as you were playing those clips of these people like Morning Joe seemingly befuddled, saying that by no account is any of this true, I would challenge them to see if they've actually read the documents, every single page of the documents that we've released over the last couple of weeks. If not, go to odni.gov, It's all right there for anyone to see. And those who go in and read this will see how President Obama directed that a National Security Council meeting be called to talk about Russia, that the report that came out of that meeting was filled with tasks that were delivered by James Clapper's assistant to John Brennan and to other elements of the intelligence community. John Brennan was the head of the CIA at the time, all saying per the president's direction, per the president's order. And very specifically, they were tasked to create an intelligence assessment that detailed how Moscow tried to influence the election, not if, but how. And this was the beginning of this manufactured intelligence assessment where they knowingly wrote things in this assessment that were false, and they knew they were false. They knew that they were basing it on discredited intelligence or documents like the Steele dossier that was politically motivated and that they knew was false.
I always found this narrative that Trump is somehow in bed with Russia to be just ridiculous. I mean, I can't even stand it because it's so off base and not even close to the truth. And Tulsi Gabbard, God bless her, is proving this even more than we already knew beyond a doubt, that there was none of this stuff going on. Just to give an example of how absurd it all is, Tulsi Gabbard actually unearthed documents from a House oversight report, and it was found that actually Russia, Moscow, specifically Putin, were purposely delaying releasing certain damaging information about Hillary Clinton because they thought, well, it's an inevitability that she's going to be elected in the 2016 election. So let's start sinking her after she gets in, when people are really paying attention to it and it doesn't seem like a political hit job. Guess what? Obviously, things didn't turn out that way, and even Putin did not know. So how exactly was Trump in bed with him and colluding with him to win the election? None of it makes sense.
And this was how they came up with the Russia hoax that was then weaponized and used to try to delegitimize the President Trump, and to try to ultimately enact this years-long coup throughout his entire 4 years of his first administration.
And they further say that there's like this idea of saying that Obama is guilty of treason, that there's almost no chance that he's going to be charged or convicted of treason. So why even go there? And I'll pose that question to you.
The integrity of our democratic republic depends on the American people knowing the truth about what actually happened and seeking that accountability, bringing about that accountability. I don't know how else to characterize what happens when there is a sitting president of the United States, there is a director of the CIA, a director of national intelligence under President Obama, the head of the NSA, James Comey is the head of the FBI, all coming together, and this is documented in what we released, all coming together to create this lie with the intent of delegitimizing the duly elected president of the United States because the person they wanted to win actually lost. And the American people made their own choice in spite of everything that happened in that 2016 election, and they chose Donald Trump. This was not a one-off thing. This wasn't just, oh, well, they fudged the lines a little bit. They created a lie and propagated that lie in order to try to undermine the person that the American people chose to be our president and commander-in-chief.
Do you ever think about how much incessant whining and complaining we hear about Watergate? Oh my gosh, Watergate. Richard Nixon was so evil and terrible. He was horrible. I'm sure you can relate. I went through the public school system, and that was just baked into our minds about how horrible and awful it was. But, you know, I kind of have to say, I don't think it's a legitimate scandal. I really don't. What about Obamagate? We all know that's not going to be in the history books because the left-wing Democrats control all of our institutions. What Obama did, namely spying on the Trump campaign and lying and creating this narrative about Russia, allegedly, that's 10 times worse than freaking Watergate. I mean, seriously. And I like how Tulsi notes that Donald Trump was elected thanks to the will of the people. You know who else was elected in a similar manner? Richard Nixon. Arguably more so, because Nixon actually got 49 out of 50 states in the 1972 presidential election. I mean, talk about a historic win. That's insane. He was the first Republican to basically sweep the South. That's nuts. Yet they still got him out less than 2 years later, thanks to Watergate. Where was the similar scandal, persecution with Obama? Of course, nowhere to be found. And with Trump, well, they tried to get him out of twice on totally made up, phony things. And you know what? I think if it was the Republican Party of the past, like in Nixon's time, they actually might have gone along with it. I don't know. That's just a theory of mine. And that's not even to say the current Republican Party is good, because it's not. It needs a lot of work, okay? And I say that as a very right-wing guy. But yeah, stuff to think about.
Point that you made earlier, that when they're losing on the facts, they demonize the messenger. And in this case, you're the messenger. And I think this is a big reason. Your opposition to the forever war syndrome, that's one reason. But then this was another reason. They clearly did not want you in your position. And to that point, Mark Warner, of course, Democrat senator from Virginia, wrote on X today, Tulsi Gabbard is a threat to our national security and should be fired. He's taking his orders pretty well, don't you think, Director?
He has and continues to be a reliable soldier. And you're right there, Laura, to make that comparison, because these very same tactics they are using now are the same tactics that the warmongers of Washington have consistently used whenever anyone challenges them to say, hey, this does not serve the best interests of the American people. It does not make us more safe, secure, and free. So why are you doing this? Exposing these people for who they are. And once again, who is the deep state? What does it consist of? We're seeing this revealed in real time here. And it's important for the American people to pay attention and realize, like, hey, with the mainstream propaganda media, we got to pay attention. We got to use our common sense and recognize we should accept nothing they say at face value.
And how important is it to root out any remaining problems in these agencies, Director? Because we need our people to believe in the FBI, to believe in the CIA, to or get rid of them altogether. I mean, I hate to say that, or just completely defund a lot of these intelligence agencies. If we can't trust them, if they're going to subvert democracy and subvert our presidency, why are we funding them?
Fun fact: did you know that the FBI was not founded until 1908? It seems like America was fine for the first 150 years, all right? I'm just saying, don't get mad at me. I don't know, it makes me wonder about these agencies, because I see a lot more of them, arresting people who were at the Capitol on January 6th than, going after the actual bad guys. So, I don't know.
Well, this is, and I'll go back to that Mark Warner tweet that you put out saying that I'm a threat to national security. Why? Because I'm actually exposing the truth. As Director of National Intelligence, I'm doing the work to go and root out those deep state bad actors within the intelligence community, because our country's national security depends on it. The rule of law requires it. The integrity of our democratic republic requires that, rooting out the truth, telling the truth to the American people, and bringing about that accountability. So yes, it is essential across the board, not only to root out the individual bad actors, but to enact the kind of institutional reform to make it so that these kinds of things cannot be allowed to happen again.
Director, thank you very much.
Another fun fact: there was an FBI agent who actually was in communication with a future mass shooter who actually told the guy, hey, you should go do that violent act you're talking about, and was there when the guy started firing, and then the agent fled the scene while the guy was going and attacking innocent people. Yeah, that's not a conspiracy theory. You can look it up. It's a real thing. With all that being said, thank you for tuning in, folks. We really appreciate it. As always, if you haven't already, make sure you comment on the video. Let us know what you liked about it, what you want to see in the future, and we will see you again soon. Also, hit that subscribe button. God bless.